it was devastating to hear that and to know that women with polycystic ovarian syndrome are already at a higher risk of having heart disease. And not only, do you have polycystic ovarian syndrome and your hormones are off, you're obese, you're overweight, and you've got too much weight on your body. And not only that, there's too much fat around your heart. And I was just like, well, how do you justify there's too much fat around someone's heart if you can't see it? And he was just like, based upon, your waist ratio, that's how they do it. How much fat you hold around your waist is how we determine who's more at risk for certain diseases. And I kind of like sat there like, wow, so what do I do? And he goes, we're just going to do the ultrasound of your heart. So I can tell you right now, the next week, the following week, in the meantime, though, he said, in the meantime, he was like, I have a feeling. He said, since it starts from your upper stomach area to the left side of your rib cage and it moves up and around that area and sometimes underneath your arm and just around this chest area. But he said, sometimes he said, you'll get a pain right on the right side too. He said, but your x-rays are clear. He was like, I have a feeling though that it could be not heartburn, but acid reflux. And I was like, but I'm 27. And he's like, you're also 27 with hypertension. And I was just like, so I see what you're saying. And he was like, and it's not, genetic or anything like that. It could be genetic, but he's like, most likely it's not genetic. It's just your weight. And I'm like, wow. Acid reflux and I'm 27. Heart disease and I'm 27. No, I can't do this. Not happening. No, no way in the world. And I went to do the ultrasound on my heart the next week, and I can tell you, hospitals and money and bills is just something I hated because, with the ultrasound, I got in there and it was just like, okay, so it's $150. We need in advance, like now, before we can do the ultrasound. And I'm like, are you serious? I don't have $150. And no, as a matter of fact, it was $300. And I was like, I don't have 300 and some dollars. And she was like, well, you need to at least pay half of it before we can do it. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have this type of money. And she was just like, you don't have a wage card by your employer or something like that? Because if you have one of those, that works too. And I was like, yeah, I have one of those, but those are for my prescriptions. I don't think it works for this. She said, if it has a Visa or a MasterCard logo, you can use it. And I said, okay, but that's all I get is 100 and no, I get $200. I was like, that's all I get is $200 because that's all I signed up for. I didn't think I would need much. And she goes, well, it's got to be paid. And I'm like, I hand her over my wage card, and I'm like, oh my gosh, all my money from my wage card is gone. But I have to get this ultrasound because I need to know what's going on. And at that point, I faced my fear of what if, what if, what if. Stop the what ifs and find out now. And so I walked in there and I met one of the most beautiful, beautiful, I mean, this spirits. This girl had a spirit that was just like out of this world. I mean, and she was pregnant and she was having her first baby. She was a beautiful Indian woman, and she's from India. What I mean by Indian, she was very beautiful. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. And she was just like, it's okay, it's okay, you know. And she just started talking to me while she was doing the ultrasound on my heart. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. I'm scared because I'm 27 and I haven't even had my first child. And she was just like, oh my goodness, it's okay, this, that, and the third. And it's all right. And she talked to me the entire time while she was doing it. She calmed me. She almost made me forget that she was even doing an ultrasound on my heart. And she was just like, your heart looks very healthy and it looks very strong. She was like, but the doctor has to make a final decision on what he sees. She was like, but so far from what I'm seeing, your heart looks very good. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, thank you. And she made me feel a lot better. But knowing that the doctor had to make the final decision of what he saw, it kind of worried me maybe about this much because of how much she just intensified everything good. And after that, I went back to him and he said, um, so how's the heartburn medication working for you? He said, how's the Nexium working for you? And I was like, oh, yeah, I take it just about every morning. And he was just like, so how you feeling? I said, I'm feeling okay. He said, any more chest pains? I was just like, no, not at all. And he was just like, okay, well, we're going to keep you on the Nexium and take it for about 7 to 10 days at a time. And if you want, you can stop it. And then when you start getting chest pains again, just keep taking it. And I was just like, what? And he was just like, yeah. He was like, your heart is fine. He was like, however, you most definitely have acid reflux. And I was just like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah. He was like, acid reflux can cause really, really bad chest pains. And he was just like, and you need to stay on some kind of medication to keep it under control. He said, because it can get bad and it can get dangerous. He was like, but your acid reflux can come from a couple of different things. He was like, however, in your case, I believe it's because you are obese. And that's when I was just like, fine, I get it. I'm gonna lose the weight. And unfortunately, I just kind of like after I took the medication, I started feeling better. I cried a little bit. When I was leaving the doctor's office, I cried and I cried and I cried all the way home. And I cried and I thanked God and I cried and I cried and I cried because it was such a relief. And I felt good, like I can live life now. Not as as to say that I wasn't living life before, because when I get down, I get really, really down, um, which is going to lead into the next thing. Um, well, it'll lead into something later, but yeah, we're at risk for heart disease, and that enough right there scared me because also I used to smoke cigarettes, and I smoked cigarettes for maybe about 2 years, and then I stopped, and then I started again in 2011, the end of 2011, and I only smoked for maybe about 3 weeks, just for about a month. I smoked for just about 1 month, and then I stopped. So I'm very, you know, paranoid about things that happen with my body because I used to be a smoker. And that scares me a lot because I carry that with me every day, because every time that I have a problem when it pertains to my chest, or when it pertains to me breathing, or when it pertains to my voice or anything like that, I automatically jump to, oh my goodness, I just did it. I did it to myself because I was so stupid because I smoked for 2 years. And not only did I just smoke, but I was a chain smoker too. Whenever I got stressed out, I would smoke. Whenever I got depressed, I would smoke. So, after that, I pretty much knew a lot more than what I had been told. Doctors on a normal will tell you you have polycystic ovarian syndrome. Take this medication, or you see a nutritionist, or see an endocrinologist. That's going to be the end of it. Um, I've never had a doctor sit down with me and tell me all the risks that were ahead of me and awaiting me if I didn't do something about my weight and if I didn't do something about my lifestyle. I've never had one of those doctors before, and thank God I actually, my doctor actually broke down and just told me.